Hi, it's the Tax Geek with more of your taxes oversimplified. Today we're going to do a deep dive into the 1099-R form. A 1099-R form is primarily for reporting various types of retirement income. However, you don't have to be retired to receive one. Anyone who receives a payout from any type of retirement plan or annuity can get one. You can get one when you leave a job and your 401k balance is distributed to you, or when you, for one reason or another, take money out of your company's retirement plan before age 59 and a half. Much like a W-2, there are a lot of boxes on a 1099-R form, and this video will not go into detail on all of them. However, I will explain most of the boxes that affect a typical taxpayer. First of all, we have the left-hand side of the form. This is where all the information on the payer and the recipient goes, including the employer identification number of the payer and the Social Security number of the recipient. So that brings us to box 1. This is where the total amount of the distribution is reported, whether taxable or not. Next we have box 2A. This is the taxable amount of whatever figure is in box 1. This amount can be equal to the gross distribution, less than the gross distribution, 0, or blank. The most important thing to remember at this point is that blank does not mean 0. It means the payer doesn't know how much of the distribution is taxable. This is usually accompanied by a check mark in box 2B. This may mean you might have to calculate the amount of the distribution that is taxable, which is definitely a lesson for another time. Sometimes you'll see the full amount of the distribution in box 2A, but box 2B will still be checked. This is because, over the years, many people have misinterpreted the blank box as being 0, and actually entered 0 into tax preparation software, resulting in IRS letters and general unhappiness. The best thing to do in this case is to leave the field blank in the software, which will automatically calculate the taxable amount of the distribution given other information you provide. If you have received a full payout of the amount in the account, the total distribution box will be checked. This is one of the factors that can determine how much of the distribution is taxable. Let's skip ahead to box 4. This is the amount of the federal income tax that was withheld from the distribution. A common misconception is that when there is an amount in this box, the taxes were paid on the distribution and that no more taxes or penalties are due. Just like any other tax withholding, this is just an estimate of the taxes that are due on the distribution, and they may be more or less than this amount when the tax return is actually filed. Sometimes you'll see an amount in box 5. These are pre-tax contributions to the account and are used to determine the taxable amount of the distribution, as is any amount in box 9B. Now we'll go on to box 7, one of the most important boxes on the form. The code in this box can tell you a lot about whether or not the distribution is taxable and whether any penalty for early withdrawal will be applied. Here are some common distribution codes. Code 1. These are early withdrawals and will usually be subject to a 10% penalty tax in addition to any income tax due. There are exceptions to this penalty, and a whole video will be devoted to those exceptions and how they apply. Code 2. These are early withdrawals as well, but the payer knows of an exception to the 10% penalty that applies to the recipient. Code 3. These are distributions made in the event the recipient is permanently and totally disabled. Code 4. These distributions are made to the beneficiaries of the account upon the death of the account holder. None of the distributions coded 2, 3, or 4 are subject to the 10% penalty for early withdrawals. Code 7. These are normal distributions made to recipients, usually upon retirement age. They are normally subject to income tax, but no penalties. Code G. These distributions were directly rolled over from one tax-advantaged account to another. In this case, the amount in Box 2A should be 0. Code J. This is an early distribution from a Roth account. In this case, the earnings on the account are taxable, and a 10% penalty applies to the distributed earnings. If the distribution is less than the total contributions made to the account, the distribution will not be taxable. Code Q. This is a qualified distribution from a Roth account. The taxable amount should be 0. And finally, Code T. This is an early distribution from a Roth account where the payer knows of an exception to the tax and penalty on the earnings from the distribution. Usually, these distributions are not taxable and no penalty applies. Of course, there are many other distribution codes, but these are the ones you'll see most often. Next to Box 7 is a checkbox labeled IRA, SEP, Simple. Certain exceptions to the early withdrawal penalty are available only to these plans, and partially taxable distributions are calculated in a special way, which is why you have to know this information. Finally, boxes 14 through 16 are for state information, indicating which state the distribution was reported to and any state tax that was withheld from it. If this section is blank, that doesn't mean the distribution isn't taxable for state purposes. Most of the time, tax software will assign the taxable amount in full to your resident state. And that's the 1099-R form in a nutshell. Additional details, resources, and information can be found in the links in the description. If you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content. Please share this video with anyone who would find it useful. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for future videos, please leave them in the comment space below. As always, thanks for watching and stay tuned for more of your taxes oversimplified.